I am Rachelle Wilson. I am your host for today. It is March 23rd, 2024, here at the WHGE 95.3 FM studios. And in just a moment, I am going to have a very important guest. Ladies and gentlemen, if you vote, if you are a voter in the state of Delaware, and of course, all over the nation, I encourage you to vote. But if you are a voter here in the state of Delaware, I am asking you to chime into today's message, today's interview with none other than Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long, Dr. Bethany Hall Long. And she's going to answer the questions that are most important to you and I in making a decision when we get to those voter polls. All right. So stay with me. I'm going to bring Lieutenant Governor Dr. Bethany Hall Long onto the stage, and we will begin to engage. Lieutenant Governor, can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am. How are you?
Great. For those listening in across the country, we're getting deluged with some rain here. We kind of need an ark or a canoe today, but we're doing good.
Actually, this is great weather. For me, I love to sit home under a blanket with a hot cup of tea and count the raindrops.
That's great. Well, I was already out early, so people be careful. The roads are pretty bad out there with the rain. Yeah.
They absolutely are. But I want to thank you first and foremost for joining us. I know you keep a busy schedule. You stay up and down the roads of Delaware, talking to people and engaging them on so many different levels. And before I start the first question, I want to say it's important to give people their flowers while they're still alive. I've learned that recently, and I've got to commend you, Dr. Bethany Hall Long. You were amazing. When I first came to you some years ago with a concern, private concern, you did not shun me away. You didn't blow me off. You didn't ignore me. You listened to me. You were warm. You were gracious. And from there, I have the utmost respect for you. So I just want you to know that on a personal level.
Thank you. And that comes from being the nurse, and from being a mom, and just when you know what the right thing, and everybody has days that are good, bad, and indifferent, and we need to help each other, and it's about making each other better.
Yeah, I think that's where we connected because we're both moms. So that's beautiful.
You got it.
So I want to get right into it for our listening audience, and I've got to tell you, Matt Meyer was here maybe about 4 or 5 months ago. He and I were able to chat. So I want people to compare his answers to the exact same questions that I'm about to ask you.
Sure.
Okay, so I want to start with something we're seeing a little bit of an uptick in. We see more and more youth on the street. We see the homeless population, particularly here in Wilmington. I'm not sure what's happening in Dover or Sussex County, but what do you think about that? And how would you make changes when you become governor?
Well, thanks. Thank you so much. And thanks, Rachelle, for your genuine concern and your engagement in all aspects of human condition. And when I say human condition, not only justice reform, our environment, our health, our cost of living and environment. Well, first and foremost, what got me into politics as a nurse, right? I'm an educator. I've taught over 30 years, education, nurses at the University of Delaware, professor, research scientist. But what brought me to the dance was taking care of the unhoused, the homeless, the mentally ill, veterans, persons unfortunately experiencing substance use disorder. It's a real challenge. And so for us, we got to address a few things. First and foremost, we've got to have, and I'll go into more with you later. I'll give you kind of a high level now, and we can stop and have a dialogue. We really have to, address things that matter, cost of living, and good paying jobs in order for us to be successful, right? To have the roof over our head, the food on the table, we've got to lean in, and we've got to lean into equity and making sure that children from our Black and Brown communities, or children with English as a second language, or children coming from lower socioeconomic strata have opportunity. I'm a young lady from Sussex who first college generation grad. My grandmom had to quit school in the 8th grade. I'm public school educated. And I can say to you that we have to lean in, and I will be the governor to make Delaware the best place to live, work, and raise a family. And how we're going to do it, and we can have more of a conversation, really is under the rubric of those good paying jobs, particularly union jobs. I'm a proud union card carrying woman, and I'm proud to have the endorsement of Delaware's unions, but also business and entrepreneurship, particularly among young Black and brown adults and entrepreneurs. I see the brightest minds when they come before me in the pardons board, often brilliant people who just kind of made a wrong path. We have got to give them opportunity, and we got to make sure the housing, and I could go into detail with you around housing. That's what brought me to the dance, was homelessness, different models. You know, when we shut down during the pandemic, myself and Dr. Gibney were on the streets, undercover lieutenant governor. People didn't know me, behind a mask, and we were literally screening individuals for COVID and placing them in the downtown Wilmington Sheraton, in a hotel from May through June, but also working with shelters. And we have to lean in and do the training, the education, the workforce, the wraparound services, and to make things successful. So that's a long answer for a short question. I could go on for hours.
I'm sure you could. And thank you for giving us some of your background. I was remiss in asking, I guess because I know a little bit about you, but I want to make sure that personally the people get to know you as well.
Sure.
So yeah, that's how you started the dance as a nurse. You came in. I just love your human ability for human compassion. I think that's very important. So we will get into a more, absolutely what can be done about our homeless population. But let's talk about the workforce in the state of Delaware and improvement in jobs in the workforce and trades.
Yes, absolutely. Really important. And, as I indicated, I was born and raised here in Delaware, went away for a little while. My husband was military, and had that opportunity to come back. And we really have to, like you said, lean in with the workforce. And it has to start early on, right? We want our children, no matter their zip code, to have a successful career or college pathway. I, as a member of the House of Representatives, where I served for 6 years, and then 9 years in the Delaware State Senate, and now as Lieutenant Governor, have that experience on day one. And as day one as your governor, have a roadmap plan that we're going to be working with not only middle and high school students and programs with partnerships for training and career pathways, having those great apprenticeships with good union paying jobs, whether we're at the Port of Wilmington or whether we are sending them into the classrooms at Del Tech to become nurses, nutritionists, police officers, phlebotomists, whatever it may be, that we want to make sure that Delaware youth stay in Delaware. Or if you are someone reinventing themselves who's come out with a little bit of a justice background, but you've got lived new experience, we want to make sure that you have those skills. And you can't do it without having their access to housing. And you cannot do that without food on the table. And so I'm super competitive. I have led the National Lieutenant Governors Association and brought back the Democrat Lieutenant Governors. And I share that with you because I know people who go easily across the line to Maryland, to PA, across the bridge to Jersey. And we want to keep the individuals here competitive in our state. So we want good manufacturing jobs. I serve on the national, it's a fancy term called NIMBLE. I am the lone voting member for Delaware on the National Innovation Manufacturing Biopharmaceutical Board. So whether we're producing pharmaceuticals, high technology, we have to lean in. Something called STEM. I work closely with a governor in the Midwest for Delaware to be strong with our teachers to make sure they have science opportunities. But I don't forget our arts. And you are very artistic, folks who have the music talent, that have the art. We want to make sure that those entrepreneurs have the economy. And so those listening know they can join me monthly. I host through the Lieutenant Governor's Office Black Leader Call, Latino Leader Call, Faith Leaders Call, and Art Leaders Calls. So if those listening in want to ever join in, we do often talk about resources and ideas and making sure our Department of Labor, with our academic higher ed settings like Del State, Del Tech, UD, have opportunities where people can afford the training and have the childcare and the universal early learning, which is a big deal to me. Early ed has to happen so that if you go work the evening shift or the night shift, that your kids have early education and that you have all the tools, because that's the only way Delaware is going to make it. And so as the next governor, that's one of the things I envision: strong, solid opportunities with good paying jobs for all people, no matter their zip code.
I think that's amazing. And thank you for that detailed answer, because people need to know the details in order to know how to make conscious and intelligent decisions.
Right.
So one of the things that I heard you say that I love as well, you talked about early childhood, which is getting them while they're young, right? Into the hands of qualified educators, even though we may have called them once upon a time they were babysitters or nannies. They're still qualifying educators. The other thing that you said that really struck me with the good chord is you want to make sure that the young population in the state of Delaware has those opportunities, whether it's college or trade or education, whichever branch they take. There's opportunity to really make Delaware better. Stay in Delaware and make it better, because we need the young people to do that, right?
Absolutely. And you're spot on. The tax credits that we need to be looking at to keep people here, the incentives, houses that you can afford. I've been working closely through the years. I've been in the arena, so I am ready on day one. When I go to take office, unlike others who are perhaps running for governor, I'm not going to need on-the-job training in the legislature. I've been in the House, the Senate. I know how to get the bills done. And in my first 100 days, have a really solid commitment in an education arena to look for ways to continue to improve equity with our schools, access with food and security. No one should be going hungry at all. We should have plenty of food, and we're working on some great innovation with our phones and AI to really improve on, access to basic human rights, basic human needs. And that is something, I'm just so proud of. And I could talk for days about education and training, but for those listening in, please reach out to like our departments of labor, our higher education. We have niches for you. If you're a returning individual who's reentering society from incarceration, or if you are a new young individual, just new to Delaware, looking for some basic training in tech or in a career abode tech, we have opportunities and apprenticeship. So I want individuals to know Delaware is ready for business. Bethany means business. I want things to be best with Bethany, right? I want people to know that when they are working with me in the leadership role, that I'm going to listen and have 2 ears, 1 mouth, and try to really have the community engaged and have a seat at the table.
That is amazing. I love that. 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I can absolutely confirm that that is true. Again, you never blew me off. You listened to me intently. And I believe that you're approachable. And that's something that the state needs, is a governor that they can actually get in touch with and talk to. And so you do have the most experience, hands-on, than any other candidate who was running. You've been there, you've done that, you know how it works, and you built the relationships needed in order to move forward, where some other people may have to come in and learn all of that. So I think that's to your advantage.
Right. Well, no, and I appreciate that. And on the flip side, I'm my own woman and an innovator. I want to be America's first nurse governor, and I want to be Delaware's second woman governor. But it's not enough about a profession or a gender. It's about the person that has a bold plan. And not only does the experience matter, but having a plan, but doing it arm in arm with individuals. Anybody who knows me knows I don't use titles. Most people don't know. I've been a PhD doctor for years. People just know me as Bethany. And that's what I love, because we are only one paycheck away, all of us, from homelessness. We're one link away from suffering. We have to lean in together. And that is the model that has led me humbly through success. I was raised in a family of faith. Like I said, first generation college graduate. And I don't take any of those things for granted. And I know what it's like. When I was 11, my dad was in a traumatic accident. Months later, my mother was diagnosed with brain cancer. And not long after that, my brother was probably in his early teens, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So we had a lot going on. And those adversities, those kinds of experiences, they kind of frame us. And I have been humbled working with you and others in the community around justice, criminal justice, environmental justice. We're only as good as our weakest link, and we all bleed red, and we all have to lean in. And so I am a governor who will lean in and who will make sure people are heard. We may not always get everything people want,
Right.
but we will remain unified, and leaning in is how we're going to get things done.
So I definitely, again, I don't want anyone to think because you're the lieutenant governor that I'm sucking up or anything. I've got to tell the audience, ladies and gentlemen, I've had the good fortune to really, really be able to chime in and get to know Lieutenant Governor Dr. Bethany Hall Long for some years. So if it seems like I'm sucking up, I apologize. That's not what I'm doing, but you've got to tell the truth and be
Thank you.
transparent.
Thank
And
you.
she really is a heartfelt human. You pulled yourself up from your bootstraps on some of your personal tragedies, but you brought that humanitarian decency with you
Right.
into the lieutenant governor's seat.
Absolutely.
And I'm confident you're going to take that with you to the
Well,
governor's
thank
seat.
you. And I appreciate it. I love being the undercover lieutenant governor. I love being out on the streets where people don't know me, when I'm up in Claymont or down in Sussex, and it's a statewide, kind of experience, and, people will look at me often and be like, oh, she doesn't understand, PhD nurse or whatever. But no, I've been there. I've known when my parents had to struggle. They didn't know if they were going to keep the electric on. They didn't have the oil for the tank. So we had to turn the stove doors on and open the stove to keep the house warm. Like,
Wow!
I get it. I
Oh
get
my
it.
God!
I get it. But people don't know all that. But, you
Yeah.
can't go by what's on the outside, and we have to go by where we've been and where we're going to go. And it's important, I think, leading the state forward. It's going to take the experience, but the vision. And, some people will say, oh, she's the old Delaware way. I'm not the old Delaware way. I am the way where Bethany means business, and I'm going to get things accomplished. And we are going to be the best that we can together, because there are models, whether it's early education, birth to 5. We have about 1,825 days where 90% of the brain is developed. That is critical. Right now, a lot of our children, because we have parents who are suffering, I chair the Behavioral Health Consortium. So I see depression and anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, substance use disorder, fentanyl, heroin, alcoholism, right? Parents cannot often take care of themselves, so the children aren't able to. So if we have early ed, they'll have 8 to 10 hours a day of universal childcare where they get food, nutrition, love, reading. So when they show up in the classroom at the kindergarten age, where 90% of their brain is developed, trauma has already been occurring around them, they at least have that loving relationship. So we have to get to the point for all of our children that we all have that. It won't happen overnight. We'll lean in. There are ways we can do it. Other states have done it, such as Louisiana and Mississippi and Alabama. And if they can do it, Delaware can do the early ed.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's do a swivel and get back a little bit to some of your plans or some of your initiatives. Have you started already working, developing a plan for how you're going to initiate these new, how you're going to implement some of these new initiatives?
Yeah,
Do you have a team
absolutely.
that's working with you?
Yeah, well, I've always had a team and a vision forward. If you look at my plans when I was a state rep working in health and education and things like food and security and agriculture and the Port of Wilmington, when I was a senator working on the bond and the Capitol Committee, you have to have that vision, right? Education is paramount, and we've got to make sure that we're changing our funding formula for education such that our children in our higher poverty areas, whether they're Black or brown or white or yellow, whoever that is, needs to have the highest resource, right? As a nurse, I put my most skilled, experienced nurse in with my sickest clients. We need to be going into our most vulnerable populations with our best skilled and most compensated and rewarded. So education is going to be a huge component, and access to workforce and training. Those of you also who know me, know I've got a whole reform agenda that I want to do with our health and social services and some of the things and how we deliver. I was so honored through the years to bring telehealth to the state. I brought the first overdose system of care to our state. I brought the first stroke system of care to the state. And I really want to make sure that we change and we really lean into social justice, criminal justice reform. You've heard me tell the story. I will continue to make reforms with justice and how we care for our inmates. It's incredibly important. I have a plan where we'll collaborate with folks in corrections to make sure our most ill and vulnerable members of the correctional health infirmary perhaps have a transition to other settings, depending on where they are in life, and also persons with really persistent mental illness, some things we can do very differently to avoid. So I will lean in, and with pardons, we've had to change. When I came in, there was a 2 to 3 year wait. When I took over 7 years ago for a commutation or pardon to be heard, we've changed that where people now, when they apply, get heard within 2 to 3 months, barring any glitches. We absolutely should have that, in place. I've worked hard with a team of people, and if you notice, I say with people, with a team. No politician does this alone. We have to do it with individuals in the community, and as a public servant, I recognize that. And it doesn't all have to be tax dollars. We have a lot we can do with our federal partners. There's things we can do with our nonprofits, our philanthropists. So we have a lot we can do.
Well, I'll tell you for certain, and two things for sure. Bethany, you already know when it comes to prisons and social justice, I'm your girl. Just let me know. I got your back. I'm going to help you work on that as much as I
Thank you.
can.
And you've been a real advocate. We appreciate your voice. You've been a real advocate, and it's good to feel that and feel that passion and from experience. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. When I show up at Legislative Hall and I step up to the podium,
it's a good thing.
Some people, they love me, and some people can take it or leave it.
Yeah. But the bottom line at the end of the day, it's about making our state better. And I will share with you that the smartest people often come before us at the commutation hearings. Pardons, to just fallen into a bad day, a bad moment, a lived experience, trauma, substance use, reacting to emotions, not understanding, and it has crushed families and crushed lives. So that's why I've worked really hard. We had to restore voting rights to persons who had a felony record, getting housing to individuals so they had it, doing the things that we need to do to lean in. Because I'm telling you, some of the smartest people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I 100% agree with you. So I want to move on. I definitely want to make sure I find out what, for some of the initiatives that you've mentioned today, some of the programs that are already in place, how would a, John Doe constituent get in touch with any of that? Is there a number or website?
Yes, sure. Absolutely. I mean, if you want to link through my office, there certainly is a website, the Lieutenant Governor. If you just Google me under the state of Delaware, delaware.gov and /Lieutenant Governor, you'll find me, Bethany Hall Long. You'll find me there. Now, if you're going to the other side, Bethany for D, BethanyForDelaware.com as I run for governor. That's a different side. That's the unofficial side. And we welcome folks. We have individuals signing up to volunteer, to door knock, to take signs, to do all kinds of fun things. And so we appreciate that. And I don't take for granted anyone that is, calling in that needs assistance. Certainly in my official capacity, we wall those two offices completely off from each other. So there are no ethical or legal concerns. But we really definitely, I'm here to assist. And for people, if you're driving down the road and you forget, 211 is an easy number for Delaware resources. So if you've got a loved one who is a senior experiencing Alzheimer's or dementia, or if you're struggling to pay the electric, or if you need help getting into the housing authority to find out about rental assistance or mortgage assistance, or you want a scholarship, 211. Real important, help is here. If you're suffering with suicide thoughts, or if you know someone who is suffering with severe anxiety or depression, we have help. you can call 211. And then, of course, if you're thinking of self-harm or suicide, 988. Really important. And folks, it is okay not to be okay. Coming out of COVID, coming out of these hard times, cloudy, rainy day, you're not alone. And know that we care about you in the first state.
You're amazing, Dr. Bethany. You're just amazing.
Thank you.
But what haven't I asked you that I should have asked you? What can you speak to that you'd like to tell the audience?
I think with the audience, listening in, it's been some rough times in this country, and it continues to be in DC. And I think there's no more important time than to have someone not only with experience, but also who can lead and get to a W for all of us, a win, who has the ability to sit with legislators, or I can sit quietly at 10 o'clock at night on 4th and Adams. I'm not going to be able to do that as governor, probably. I won't get away with it that I do now, but where I can sit and we can be accessible. And I will tell you that having led other states across the country, leading national organizations, that it is really important to have individuals now who can work across the aisle, who can lean in, who have a viewpoint of protecting rights, democratic rights, housing rights. And I could have sat here and bragged. I did over 1,000 bills when I was a member of the General Assembly. The other couple people running against me never had to never had to sponsor a bill, never had to vote on a bill. I'm battle tested, but I'm beyond battle tested. I am got shiny new ideas. I am a woman of my own. And I think Delaware is ready to have a woman, again, who can work across all levels of economics, all communities of color, and to really lean in around justice, economics, environment, healthcare, and education. And so I am humbled by your kind words today. And I would just hope that folks will go out and vote. There is a Democrat primary September 10th, and then certainly the general election November.
Absolutely. And again, I'm just going to reiterate, I do think because of all of your years of experience, you've done so much. You sit in the second highest seat in the state of Delaware. To me, in my mind, it only makes sense that you go to the very next seat because you have the experience to do that, Bethany.
Yes. Well, thank you. Again, people will say, "Oh, it's the same old way." It's not. It is not. It's not only having
you are your own woman. That part I can absolutely say. You are your own woman. No one's going to push you around or dangle the carrot in front of you. I do respect that about you.
I appreciate it. And, having the vision and a bold plan, that is really what matters, and a realistic one. I could come on and pretend and blow smoke and mirrors, and I'm going to do this and that and this and that and promise all these things. But it all comes with a sustainable ability to get things done. And, some people have used ARPA monies and given out certain things. It's sustainability. It's long-term leaning in. It's taking care of community. And so I just thank you for what you do, because you've been a great voice sharing stories. And so listeners, share your stories, send emails, make your phone calls to members of the General Assembly, to your local city council, to our members of Congress. It matters. Delaware's small. We see each other in the parks and the gyms and the grocery stores. And that's the beauty. And I will say, I am in a primary. I've been through primaries. I will lean in whoever is there September 11th, the day after, because that is what makes Delaware strong. And I hope that I will be on your list when you go to the ballot box.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to throw a French in there and say, recently I've come to the knowledge that our local civic associations and neighborhood planning councils are also a part of government, maybe at the beginning stages, but they offer a wealth of information and ladder. So we want to make sure that you're also kept in the hub by your local civic association.
Absolutely. And being involved in the local civic association, your home maintenance, your block, your community block, your parent teacher organization, because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So it's really important to be at that table. You don't want to be on the menu.
And I like you. I love you so much, Bethany. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Yeah.
I am going to go back. I guess it's okay to remind people of the office number of how they can reach you on
Yes.
an official capacity at
Yes.
the office. Tell us really quick, what is
Sure.
that number?
That number is 302, of course, 744 4333. So 302-744-4333. Yep. Did you get that?
Yes, ma'am. I've got it. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful rest of the rainy day.
Yes,
Enjoy your.
I know. Is that crazy or what? It's crazy.
Oh my God, though. But I'm going home and get me a blankie and count the.
I love it, right? Are you? I love it. Well, listen, you have a great, blessed day as well. And thanks.
You're welcome, sweetheart. God bless.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Lieutenant Governor Dr. Bethany Hall Long giving us transparency and answers to the questions. All right. She has an entire team who is prepared to work with her to set up new and innovative as well as take from the old. Remember, the old bull and the young bull, they need each other. All right. So, old ways, new ways, combine them together. And I always see young people around her office. So I know she's got innovation happening around her. I just invite you, ladies and gentlemen, please, please, please listen to the interview, hear what she is saying, and then make a conscious and intelligent decision for September as well as in the general in November. All right. I'm telling you right now, it makes the best sense to have the person with the most experience lead us, lead us in the state of Delaware as our governor for the state of Delaware. All right. So I'm Rachelle Wilson. Thank you so much for chiming in today. Mwah. Just remember that God loves you, and so too do I. We're right here to make some intelligent noise at WHGE 95.3 FM. Enjoy your day. Peace and grace.